There's a Zen proverb that says, if you understand, things are as they are. If you don't understand, things are as they are. Remembering that one today, I'm feeling a few mixed emotions today. Been going through some interpersonal challenges in recent days with a couple people in my life, and just holding space for that, holding compassionate space as best I can, and also just noticing that things are as they are. Life is as it is. The mind can have a tendency to want to create a dramatic story about things that are happening and can try to fixate on that story. There are parts of ourselves and parts of our minds that often feed upon drama and try to use drama as a way of perpetuating their existence. Eckhart Tolle has spoken about the pain body, the kind of swampy, coagulated, wounded parts of ourselves that are in need of deep healing, deep loving presence, yet which often have almost an autonomous will to kind of persist in their current form. And these pain body aspects of us can really hijack the mind and hook into the mind when they get triggered and create a kind of dark symbiosis, a dark feedback loop where the mind is being hijacked by inner wounded parts and driven to create and fixate on over-dramatized narratives. And then the over-dramatized narratives in turn are kind of fed upon by those wounded parts of us that almost want drama on some level, want to feel bad, want to have a reason for kind of perpetuating a sense of separation or perpetuating certain other feelings of tension or rejection or unworthiness or shame or whatever it is. So these dynamics can be really, really subtle, really difficult to notice, especially when you're in the heat of the moment with things coming up, with people in your life. It's always valuable to get outside, get in nature, put your bare feet on the earth as I'm doing here, and just ground, reconnect, connect to a sense of spaciousness, focus your attention on the vividness and lusciousness that are ever present in boundless quantities. There's literally an ever-present big bang, an ever-present flash of pure artistry going on all around us. And when we get hooked into drama, mental stories, we can very easily narrow in on that and to the exclusion of everything else. So it's very helpful to just, look at a tree, look at some leaves, look at the sky, and realize that those are equally valid emanations of your present experience, emanations, shinings forth within your present experience as whatever mental story is being locked into. And no matter what's happening, behind it all, there is this silence, there is this wholeness, there is this quality of rest that can be felt, can be tapped into. And this is part of the power of accessing this type of portal when we're not in deep drama. If we playfully practice in day-to-day life to access this portal of nowness, really drop all stories, ideas, opinions, beliefs, identities as deeply as possible, and just come into this clarity and this finality that now is all we've ever experienced. No one's ever found the past or the future. Now is all that we have. Now is what this is. And you can't really say what now is, but it's here. It's a fullness. It's it's omnipresent. It's flowing. It's oceanic. It's vivid. It's textured. It's many dimensional. It's unpriceable, unquantifiably juicy, effulgent, rich. And when we practice to access that type of portal in daily life, when we're in a more calm and not emotionally triggered space, it can then make it a lot easier to access that portal when we are experiencing some kind of trigger or some kind of drama in relation to people in our lives. And really, it not only can we access it, but the more that you've accessed this portal of nowness, the more that you playfully let yourself abide as pure freshness now, abide as something that is far beyond human, to be frank, far beyond the body, the human identity, far beyond your name and all the stories you tell yourself about yourself. There is this literal vividness of infinite artistry all around us. And the more that we have playfully accessed that portal in day-to-day life, it is cumulative. It accumulates over time, and it shifts the foundational center of gravity of your being such that you abide more fully and intrinsically as this nowness. You are rooted in and as this nowness, and there is this increasingly indestructible background knowingness and an embodied, energetic, tactile knowingness that this is always here, this is always it, this is wholeness now, we are held. There's a deep experiential flavor to this, that this is home, we can trust this is love, it's okay, any emotion is okay, no emotion is wrong, even the most seemingly heavy or fiery or spicy or swampy or gloppy or coagulated emotional textures. That's just another texture on the kaleidoscope, another color on the color wheel, another way that this infinitely differentiated continuum of bandwidths can shine forth in any given moment. This too shall pass. Everything is actually instantaneously passing. If we look very closely, it's almost like an instantaneous refresh rate. You've never seen the same moment twice. You've never seen the same person twice. You've never felt the same emotion twice. You've never seen yourself the same way twice. And these are statements not to be latched onto and turned into beliefs or kind of black and white thinking. They're just pointers to freshness, pointers to notice, wait, this nowness is always fresh. I've never experienced this before. I fundamentally don't know what this is in a deep sense, and this is a fresh, boundless mystery to me. So yeah, the more that we playfully penetrate that portal of preciousness in daily life, the more that it really like sinks into our bones, our cartilage. It transfigures, it alchemizes the fundamental material of our being in a certain sense. There's a deep alchemy that takes place on earth as it is in heaven. This heavenly light that we're opening to, which experientially, texturally, is what it can really feel like when you relinquish identities, ideas, opinions, past, future, body, mind, relationships, the external world. When you let it all go and you just open to what is here, it can feel like you're opening to a heavenly light, a heavenly effulgence that is in a conditionless condition of utter repose and all-embracing love. And that light tends to begin to be accessed first up here through the crown, and then over time it can experientially seem to sink down more and more, and then it hits the heart, and the heart the heart can blow wide open. You know, I've had many just pure weeping heart openings the last few years, and then it can continue to sink down from there into the belly and the root. And the belly and the root is where many teachings and traditions and my own experience suggest that a lot of our most coagulated, swampy, murky, gloppy karma is stored. Everything related to sex, money, death, tribe, belonging, fear, shame, is often stored in this area. So that's, in a sense, the densest lead that is gradually alchemized into gold, alchemized into this luminous light of pure beingness. And I've recently been experiencing some quite deep shifts in the belly and root area with a couple of entheogenic journeys that I've engaged in recent months, very deep, highly intentional healing ceremonies with a very deep intention, and really working with the Christ energy. The Christ energy for me is very powerful in those types of healing portals, especially the mysterious Christ energy, which is another mysterious emanation of this unpindownable vastness, this suprapersonal, trans-definable vastness that we seem to be sojourning through and as waves on the ocean. Christ is another depiction, another apparition of that infinite field of flavorfulness that we seem to be part of. And I don't mean apparition in a sense of being unreal. What this is beyond real or unreal, like way beyond that. It's it just can't be said. I mean, I generally lean more, in the language I use, I lean more toward calling it real and reality, because it's the realest thing we've ever known. It's the realest thing there is, that we have access to. And yet, you know, even words like real and reality cannot capture this, cannot pin it down. And apparition is just a way of pointing toward the etheric, kind of dreamlike, vaporous, evanescent, ever flickering, impermanent, dynamic fluid, almost liquid, like nature of this river of being. When you open to it very deeply and intimately, that is the kind of experiential texture that it takes on, that can be revealed. And so, yeah, this super personal ocean has many faces, many emanations, many apparitions. What seems to be Jordan Bates speaking to you right now is one such apparition, one such emanation. And in deep spaces of mystical insight, healing, or revelation, there can be emanations and apparitions of saints and sages and avatars, and it can be incredibly powerful to work with these personal and super personal revelatory emanations, avataric emanations who crystallize a sense of the most primal, the most beautiful qualities of divinity crystallized in a form that is deeply resonant with the sacramental human journey and intelligible to the sacramental human journey, and translates the primal qualities of divinity skillfully into a North Star human incarnation that can be resonated with, that can be deeply welcomed in, that can literally seem to perform open heart surgery on your being. I mean, these are living presences as far as I'm concerned. As far as my experience goes, Jesus Christ is a living presence who is with us just as much as I'm with you right now, or my daughter is with me when I'm holding her in my arms. And I've had similar experiences with many other types of discarnate intelligences and beings, Indian saints and sages, Anandamayi Ma, and many of these experiences have occurred while sober, or maybe drinking coffee, and then a whole lot more have occurred in deep entheogenic states, where there have been a whole vaster spectrum of entities and discarnate beings encountered on a wider spectrum of apparent benevolence versus malevolence versus gray area tricksterness. Yeah, so it's weird out here. Long story short, it's weird and wavy out here. But back to the point that I was making, these mushroom journeys, Christic, Christ healing mushroom journeys, have felt deeply connected to allowing this experiential quality of omnipresent heavenly light, the omnipresent sunlight of pure being, to sink further down, further into the solar plexus, further into the belly, the sacral, the dantian, the root, the groin. And there's been a deep sense of like things thawing out down there, a sense of numbness abating, certain numbnesses that I didn't even really realize were there because those parts were numb, kind of thawing out. And a lot of the embodied healing and awakening process is deeply akin to a thawing out. The body has been kind of frozen in a state of numbness as a defense mechanism, a protective mechanism, because we're living in a civilization that's been steeped in war, violence, and abuse for millennia, and most of our ancestors were traumatized in one way or another, and we've been born into a civilization that in many ways resembles a factory farm, where we've been kind of shipped through this factory-like education system where we were conditioned, and the system attempted to shape us into, to put it in a dystopian sense, to shape us into drone-like automatons who would be able to perform the task that the master has given me. Just performing repetitive drudge work all day, sitting in desks as children for 8 hours a day, as the the drill master tells us the next required regurgitation of memorized information. Yeah. Anywho, bringing up memories of my complex relationship with what is known as school. But yeah, it's not too surprising that our deeply sensitive, soft animal bodies like closed off to a lot of that, especially as we were taught that it wasn't really safe and okay to be our full spectrum embodied rainbow unicorn selves and let it all hang out and wear our heart on our sleeve and be us and sing and dance and be fruity and wavy and wacky and weird and childlike and, that's not allowed here, young man. Now straighten yourself out there, dear boy. you know, obviously kind of caricaturing things right here, but of course, caricature and comedy can be useful for accessing and illuminating deep shadows. So anywho, it's not surprising that a lot of us are in a state of like almost permanent fight or flight, deep kind of or freeze, and there's kind of a deep frozen rigidity. Our true full embodied sensitization to life and our innate organic suppleness and fluidity tends to be quite restricted in this civilization and culture at this juncture. And so a lot of the embodied healing and awakening process is akin to this heavenly light entering through the crown, and there can also be a sense of light coming up from the earth as well. So, it's not exactly linear, and any model is gonna miss the mark because it's a non-linear and multidimensional process, and there are simultaneous elements of kind of ascending and descending energy. But I do find some resonance with this idea that the energy is more able to start pooling up here in the crown area, this area where the thinking mind often seems to reside, seems to be more naturally etheric, more porous to this type of energy. And then over time, it sinks more fully into the heart, which, may be somewhat less porous than the mind. And there can be these deep heart openings. And then least porous and most dense seems to be, what we've got going on down here with with the solar plexus, the belly, the sacral, and the root. There can be a lot of very swamp-like coagulated karma and frozen trauma there. And we can be very thankful for our brilliantly intelligent bodies that they have these inbuilt mechanisms that they were able to create these shields and freeze and kind of numb as a way of protecting us when we were young, because we didn't know how to process the level of pain or rejection or abandonment, or abuse or violence that in many cases was being afflicted upon us. I'm very lucky. I don't feel like my parents are amazing. They love me very much, and I feel very blessed in that respect. So I'm not trying to imply that I came from any sort of abusive family or something, but our culture has unconscious forms of abuse and violence baked into it that are not normally noticed. And I'm not trying to be hyperbolic with these terms, but really, I mean, if you really look at it, like, baby boys are born, and the first thing they experience in many cases in this world is they're snatched from their mothers, taken from their mothers, and a large chunk of their penis is cut off. A large chunk of their most sensitive, most personal appendage is just amputated in a display of very strangely medicalized violence. A A lot of baby boys in our civilization, like myself, were not breastfed because the culture convinced our mothers that breast milk was not necessary and formula would work just fine. A lot of our mothers had to go back to work 6 to 8 weeks after we were born. My mother had to go back to work 6 weeks after I was born, so I started going to daycare at that time. And, I've accessed deep memories of feeling deeply separated, deeply rejected and abandoned, and just crying, sobbing as an infant. So even things like that leave very deep imprints, and we don't often understand the level of violence that is there. And then the way our civilization feels that it needs to, like, in a sense, break children down and discipline them and kind of shape them into things that will be useful to the machine of the civilization, which is largely designed as kind of a pyramid scheme that harvests the life force energy of the masses and directs it toward a small group of people at the top who have a vastly disproportionate amount of the life force energy of the civilization stagnantly pooled in their bank accounts. And the civilization has this deep prioritization of profit over everything, and there are many dehumanizing and undignifying and abusive things that are occurring in the name of profit in this civilization. So, and a lot of the classical modes of schooling fall into that category. So a lot of us went through that. A lot of us went through some of the dysfunctions of organized religion, being made to feel like we're inherently sinful boys and girls who are going to burn in hell for all of eternity if we step out of line, if we spank the monkey or, clean the pipes, and other missteps, things of that nature. It was normalized for a long time in our culture to spank children, to just hit children, to teach them lessons. I saw this when I taught English in South Korea. It was still normalized there to sometimes just take the elementary school kids out in the hallway and hit them with a stick. And so, yeah, a lot of this stuff is like, it's normalized and people assume like, oh yeah, it's just kind of always how things have been done. But as you unfreeze a lot of this karma and trauma and you resensitize, you start to see the shadows of the culture and civilization and the deep unconsciousness and non-sanity that creates a deep sense of numbness and separation among people, which then propagates itself later on as further dynamics of separation, tribal violence in the form of political warfare, information warfare, actual physical warfare with bodies being murdered, desensitization to the cruelty toward animals and toward children, situations of ongoing slavery, human trafficking, rape, mistreatment of many people. And yeah, war. Our species murdered 100 million of its own kind in the 20th century alone. And that's pretty much the only historical fact you need to know to be able to recognize that our species on the whole is in a condition of deep non-sanity, non-lucidity, separation, and a literal insane loop of karmically roundhouse kicking itself in the face for century after century, for thousands of years. So that's what we've been born into. Welcome to Earth, ladies and gentlemen. And, to balance things out, look at this place. The place is gorgeous. And as I am always saying in my videos, the now moment is truly this exquisite refreshment of pure artistry if we're able to actually go to the immediate beingness, the immediate textural detail, and not live within these cages of small mental narratives where we've defined ourselves as these small, helpless beings, we can open to an infinity, an ever-present infinity of vastness that goes far beyond our human self. It fully includes these sacramental human journeys. It doesn't have to negate anything. You can have your cake and eat it too in that sense. I am not in agreement with the Enlightenment teachings that make it sound like you need to cast aside your entire human life and everything that's precious to you and throw it all in a dumpster fire in order to realize enlightenment. It's much more like a continual, never-ending opening and enlightening and awakening, where this omnipresent light of being is allowed to permeate and suffuse and open our bodies on every multidimensional level, which goes far beyond just the physical body and has all these dimensions of subtlety and energy and subtle vibes. And we are gradually, literally reawakened, like cells and senses that have been dormant or slumbering or numb or frozen are resensitized, reawakened, reopened. The frozenness is dissolved, and once again we're able to sense and feel and be this intrinsic fluidity, this intrinsic at-homeness, this intrinsic flavor of repose, rest, trust, and all-embracingness that experientially feels, as you open to this process, feels like it is deeply inherent in the heart of reality, in the heart of what this is. It feels like coming home, although there's no need to reify it as a new belief system. You don't have to turn it into a new dogma, and that has been one of the great historic traps of humanity, is to take the pointers of great sages, mystics, avatars who are pointing at this infinity now and concretize it, grasp onto it, turn it into a new dogma that then becomes another basis for separation and another basis for demonizing and killing those other people over there who believe a different dogma than me. So, anywho, welcome to Earth. Much love to you. You have taken on or been spontaneously emanated as a rather strange and dense karmic assignment. We seem to be in a gloppy cauldron of jambalaya in a certain sense here on the Earth plane at this time. Our work is cut out for us. We are being invited to alchemize and transfigure and redirect the momentum of literal centuries and millennia of warfare and overt and covert forms of violence, abuse, domination, separation, etc., etc., etc. And meanwhile, texturally, experientially, if you open to the now moment, if you playfully engage and allow yourself to access this ever-present portal of nowness, you can open to what experientially really feels like omnipresent God nature, omnipresent divinity, that this entire earthly plane is an emanation of, is in a certain sense one small dimension of an infinite dimensional artistry. All the stories of what's going on Earth, there's literally an infinity of additional detail and vibration and strangeness present in every moment that we don't have words for and that are far beyond what is earthly and what is human. And that can sound pretty abstract and ungrounded, but it shows up in something as simple as like staring at a bush. Like there's a lot going on with what we normally would call a bush that goes way beyond our stories of what is human and what is earthly. Like what actually is the color green? What actually are these shapes that are effulging themselves upon consciousness? What is perceiving this right now? What is this etheric pensive like substance of lucidity that this unknown shape-shifting being that we're just simply calling a bush seems to be morphing through and presenting itself through, and how is it able to appear instantaneously in this flash of nowness, in total lucidity, total clarity, no lag time, high definition, never looking the same moment to moment, everything subtly shifting and morphing at every moment, So God is in the details, as they say. When we start attuning to the actual astonishing textural infinite detail of our immediate naked experience, bare feet on the earth, once again, very helpful way of resensitizing and tuning in and receiving healing energy from Gaia, this this emanation that seems like as well a living suprapersonal mythopoetic presence that has many gifts to bestow on us, and is attempting to wrangle her children who have gone a little off the rocker here, at least the hominid monkey race, the youngsters that are much younger and less wise than these mighty ancient trees, for example, who don't kill each other but just abide in grace, rest, harmony, repose, stillness. Yeah, so we can connect to Gaia. We can connect to what seems to be an infinite omnipresence of radiance, here now, ever present, always available. So that's the good news. That's the good news. And further good news is that experientially, the more that you allow yourself to go into this nowness and to be seduced by this all-present flash of textural artistry, this utterly immersive hyper tapestry that you are fully embedded in and as. It's not even embedded. You are the tapestry. You are the ocean, full contact sensory aliveness. We are souls without skin out here. It's we are this. The more you go into that, allow yourself to feel that, relinquish all ideas, beliefs, opinions, stories, sense of ownership, past, future, sense of right and wrong, essentially relinquish all the most subtle ideas you've ever had about what this was, because those are the fundamental concretizations that actually block us from opening to this all-present light. The more you playfully practice to relinquish those and find these personal access points to this portal of nowness that allows for this deep sinking in of majesty, of all-present deliciousness, gorgeousness, there is a dawning experiential sense that this nowness and this voluptuousness that is here, this richness, this lusciousness, this living poetry, this, in a sense, rock-solid presence of now, the only place we've ever been, this repose, this all-embracingness, this sense of being at home. There's this dawning sense that feels vastly more real, more fundamental, more foundational, more central to what we truly are. There's a sense that it's literally confirming to you that it is vastly more real in a deep sense, because it's showing you, yes, welcome home, child. This feels good, child. Yes, you're getting it now. You're remembering. You've been lost in a story of separation. You're remembering now. You're coming home. That is the experiential textural quality of it. Again, it doesn't need to be concretized as a dogma or a belief system. You can just feel that, and that gives you this deep sense that what this is here and now is vastly more real, vastly more foundational, vastly more important in a sense than all of the then all of the stories of what's going on out there, all of the afflictive, polarizing, tribal squabbling and information warfare and all that giant conglomeration of stuff about everything going on out there can just feel less and less foundational, less and less imperative to pay attention to. Your attention can return to nowness, and then paradoxically you actually become much more available, much more spacious, much more able to be of service to truly resolving the knots and the karmic momentum, truly being of service to the end of that endless squabbling warfare that seems to be going on out there, because you end the warfare within yourself. So you then become a beacon, a lantern of possibility of a different way of existing on this planet, a different way of existing that we are being invited to remember in every moment. There's an ever-present invitation, a literal flashing billboard of infinite artistry continuously walloping us in the face, saying, hey, I'm here, remember now, root yourself now, you've never seen anything other than now, you've never been anywhere other than now. So, anywho, this stuff can be difficult to put into words, but that's my attempt for today. That feels complete for now. I hope you've received something helpful, something valuable there. Yeah. Essential message: return to nowness, experience nowness, feel the radiance of now, feel the texture and artistry of now, allow the wholeness of now, the light of now to permeate and saturate your being and body on all levels. All burdens can be offered up to the nowness, can be given to the fire of nowness, can be burned away, transfigured, transmuted, integrated in the fires of nowness, which in a deep sense have already integrated everything and already contain all wisdom and all love. All love, all peace, all possibility of the deepest and most beautiful things our hearts long for is contained here now. All those possibilities are inherent in this nowness. All the qualities of life that make life worth living are here now and inherent in this nowness and accessible if we are willing and able to do the very courageous thing of starting to question our beliefs and, on a deeper level or a more accelerated level, literally burn down all beliefs, relinquish all beliefs, opinions, sense of ownership, sense of grasping and craving and past and future and identity. Burn down all those layers. Most notably, stop believing that you already know what life is, and let nowness freshly reveal itself to you as an unknown miracle that is dancing itself in utter repose, clarity and harmony with no maintenance required in a profound sense. So that's the message for today. Much love to you. Much love. Trust life. Trust divinity. Be well. God bless you and your children and all beings, all the days of your lives, for the highest good of all. May we go forth in peace to love and serve the whole. Thanks be to God. Amen.